150 motorcycles in the parking lot of Madison Heights Elementary School on the morning of December 24th was not something the Jefferson City School District's emergency protocol had been designed to address, especially not for the suspension of a 9-year-old girl in forearm crutches. But it started 3 hours earlier, before the parking lot filled, before the windows of the principal's office began to vibrate from the sound of 150 engines arriving in formation. It started with a man named Cole Briggs pulling into that lot in his pickup at 7:15 with 6 boxes of Christmas toys, and no idea the morning was about to become something else entirely. It started with a note a 9-year-old had written about a math test, and a principal who had decided that December 24th was a fine day to make the problem disappear until January. He did not know, when he slid the suspension paperwork across his desk at 7:43 that morning, that Cole Briggs was standing in the hallway outside his office with a phone in his hand. He did not know that by 8:15, every single one of the 149 other riders scheduled for the Iron Road's annual Christmas toy run would be turning their engines off in his parking lot instead. He would know all of it soon enough. Madison Heights Elementary sat at the corner of Oak and 15th in Jefferson City, a 2-story brick building with a seasonal display in every window and a parking lot kept in the kind of meticulous order that signals a school that takes pride in how it presents to the world. Christmas lights had been strung along the front entrance. A paper snowflake project covered the office window. Each snowflake cut differently, each one made by a different child. The flagpole was bare. Most of the staff were there only to close out the term. It was 23 degrees. The sky was the color of old newspaper and had been that color since before dawn. The parking lot smelled of cold asphalt and the particular stillness that settles in the days before a holiday when most of the world has already gone quiet. Cole Briggs had been coming to this parking lot for 6 consecutive Decembers. He was 48 years old, broad through the chest, with a graying beard and a chin scar from a fall in 1997 that had healed in a way that made the story sound more interesting than it was. He was full patch Iron Road's MC, Missouri chapter, 23 years. Every December, he sewed a temporary patch onto the left breast of his cut. Toys Not Bombs, the charity motto of the run, and wore it from the 1st of the month through the 26th. He had never felt the need to explain it to anyone. The Iron Road's annual Christmas toy run had been delivering to Jefferson City schools for 11 years. This year, 63 riders had collected 847 toys between them. The plan was to rendezvous at Madison Heights at 8 o'clock, unload the toys, sign the coordination form with the office manager, and ride the next leg of the circuit. Cole had arrived 40 minutes early to handle the logistics. He had met with Carol, the office manager, signed the form, left his clipboard on the chair in the outer office, and was heading back from the parking lot to collect it when he heard the voice through the half-open door. What stopped him was not the voice. It was what the voice was not doing. It was not raised. It was not uncertain. It was measured and calm and completely without hesitation. The specific voice of a man who has processed this kind of thing before and considers the processing to be the point. Cole had a daughter named Kelsey. She was 28 and lived in Denver. 3 years ago, she had called him on a Sunday afternoon to tell him something she had been waiting to tell him for 20 years. That her 3rd grade teacher used to make her stand at the front of the class when she couldn't read aloud, and the other children had laughed, and she had not told him at the time because she was afraid he would make it worse. Kelsey had learning disabilities that were not diagnosed until she was 11. She was fine now. She had told him not because she needed anything from him. She was fine, she said. She had been fine for a long time, but because she thought he should know. He had thanked her and hung up and sat at his kitchen table for 4 hours. He stood in the hallway of Madison Heights Elementary on December 24th and listened. He had his phone in his hand before he had decided what he was going to do. Before we find out what happened next, if you're new here, hit subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this. Drop your city in the comments right now. I want to see how far this one travels. I read every single one. Now, back to Cole Briggs in that hallway, phone in hand, listening to a voice that had no idea he was there. Because what he heard next was not something he was going to walk away from. Her name was Maisie Lynn Aldrich. 9 years old, she had spina bifida and walked on forearm crutches. Aluminum worn to a particular gray at the grips from 3 years of daily use. She had been on crutches since she was 2. She did not think of herself the way adults sometimes thought of children like her, as a child defined by what she needed assistance with. She thought of herself as a child who was going to Paris when she grew up and who had ironed the Eiffel Tower onto the front flap of her backpack at age 7 as a public announcement of this intention, and who had not changed her mind since. She was a straight-A student in her modified program at Madison Heights. Her IEP, 41 pages reviewed twice that school year, co-signed by Principal Gerald Harmon, governed every aspect of her education. Page 7 of that IEP contained a notation from her occupational therapist. Maisie's expressive language is characterized by frequent hyperbole, a trait common to her profile. Statements such as, "I want to kill this," or "this is killing me," should be understood as figures of speech and not as statements of intent. Principal Harmon had signed that page on August 14th. On December 23rd, Maisie had passed a note to her classmate Jamie during the afternoon math assessment. The note read, "I want to kill this test. Do you want my extra pencil?" Jamie had given the note to the teacher. Donna Aldrich had received the call at 5:30 in the morning, in the last hour of her overnight shift at the distribution warehouse, and had been asked to come in at 7:30. She arrived in her warehouse safety vest because there had been no time to change. She was 36 years old. She had been raising Maisie alone for 4 years, since Maisie's father decided that a single-income household and a child with medical needs was not the life he had planned. She worked overnight at the warehouse 3 days a week and 3 mornings a week at a dental office on the other side of the city. She had attended 4 IEP meetings and 3 parent-teacher conferences and 2 district-level hearings in the 3 years since Maisie started at Madison Heights. She knew what her daughter's file said. She was not, this morning, in any condition to use that knowledge. Her hands were trembling as she signed herself in at the front desk. She was holding Maisie's hand in the principal's office, trying to understand what was happening. Maisie was not crying. She stood on her forearm crutches with the red crayon tucked behind her ear. She carried one every day, used it to underline what she wanted to remember, and she watched Principal Harmon with the patient, careful expression of a 9-year-old who has learned to read adults carefully and has found that most of them, when they believe they are in charge, look exactly like this. She had been standing in that office for 6 minutes, alone in the way a child is alone when the adults in the room are talking about her future, without once consulting her face. She was not afraid. She was going to Paris. Principal Gerald Harmon was 57 years old and had run Madison Heights Elementary for 14 years. In that time, he had built what was genuinely the best disciplinary record in the Jefferson City School District. Low incident rate, high attendance. A zero-tolerance policy applied with such perfect consistency that he had never once been successfully appealed at the district level. He did not take credit for this personally. He gave the credit to the policy. Exceptions were the beginning of disorder. The policy was what made everything else work. He wore a candy cane tie. He had a bowl of wrapped chocolates on the counter for children who had behaved well. He had a framed photograph of his grandchildren on the desk behind him. He had spent 6 minutes on the case of Maisie Lynn Aldrich. He looked at Donna. He looked at the incident report. He looked at the policy. He never once looked at Maisie. In 6 minutes of explaining the suspension, the incident, the language, the zero-tolerance policy, the appeal window, the reinstatement process, he did not look at the child in the forearm crutches standing beside her mother. He slid the paperwork across his desk to Donna. He told her she could contact the district office after the holiday. He said it with the measured civility of a man who has practiced ending conversations and believes this one to be over. Cole Briggs had been in the doorway for the last 40 seconds of this exchange. Harmon noticed him now. He looked at the cut, at the Toys Not Bombs patch, at the clipboard. He looked at Cole's face. "Can I help you?" he said. Cole looked at Donna. He looked at Maisie, at the Eiffel Tower, on her backpack, at the red crayon behind her ear. He looked back at Harmon. "That's her IEP you're working from?" he said. Harmon told him politely that student matters were private and that he needed to leave the office. Cole did not move. "Page 7, Cole said. "There's a therapist's note on page 7, about the language, about how she talks." "Sir, did you read page 7? Cole said. Harmon looked at his secretary. "Carol, would you please ask this gentleman to step outside?" He stood in the hallway. The door did not fully close. Through it, he heard Donna say, "He's right," she whispered. There's a note. Her therapist wrote it, about how she uses words. He heard Harmon explain, with careful patience, that the district's zero-tolerance policy did not include accommodations for phrasing, that the determination had been made, and that the appeal process was available to her. He heard Maisie say nothing. Cole stood in the hallway outside the office with the clipboard in his hands and thought about Kelsey at the front of a third-grade classroom. He thought about 20 years. He thought about what it had cost her to carry it and what it had cost him not to know, and about the specific difference between a person who was standing in that hallway and a person who was not. He was not going to leave. He went back in. "Sir, I already asked you. I heard you." Cole said, "If you don't leave now, I will call the police and report this as a trespassing incident. I want to be clear about what that means for your morning." He said it with complete confidence. He had never encountered a situation that institutional authority had not eventually resolved. Cole looked at Donna. She was holding Maisie's hand. She was still in her warehouse vest. She looked like she was trying to hold something together from the inside. He looked at Maisie, the red crayon, the Eiffel Tower, the patience on her face that a 9-year-old should not have had to learn this well. Cole reached into his cut pocket. He made one call. 8 words. Madison Heights Elementary, Oak and 15th. Right now. He put the phone away. He walked to the waiting area chairs outside the office, sat down and crossed his arms. "I'll wait," he said. Principal Harmon came out 3 minutes later. "Sir, the police have been contacted. I want to be clear." Cole stood. He went from seated to standing, the way a door opens, not dramatically, simply inevitably, in one motion. When he reached his full height, the hallway organized itself differently. 6 feet 1, the iron roads cut, 23 years. The hands of a man who had been a mechanic for most of his adult life. The hallway went silent, not because anyone said anything, because of the specific quiet that occurs when the nature of a situation changes faster than the words available to describe it. He did not walk toward Harmon. He walked past him into the office doorway. "Do you have the therapist's note?" he said to Donna. "The paper copy. In your bag." "I have it." Her hands were still trembling as she found it, folded twice. The occupational therapy clinic letterhead, the relevant paragraph halfway down the page. Cole took it. He turned to Harmon and held it out. "Read it," he said. Harmon looked at the paper. "The policy doesn't..." "Read it," Cole said. "Not louder, if anything quieter. The specific quiet of a person who will say the thing the same way as many times as are necessary." Harmon did not take the paper. Cole turned it over. He held it so the signature at the bottom of the page was visible. He held it there. "Your signature," Cole said. "August 14th. Harmon looked at the signature. "Your signature," Cole said again. Outside, from the direction of Oak Street, the parking lot had begun to vibrate. Harmon walked to the window. He stood there, looking at what was coming. He did not speak. His jaw moved once, then stilled. Carol, the secretary, came to the window. She looked out. She froze. She looked at Gerald Harmon. "Gerald," she said. That was all. Harmon turned back into the office. Cole was in the doorway. Donna was holding Maisie's hand. Maisie was on her forearm crutches with the red crayon behind her ear, watching everything the way she watched everything, with the patient attention of a child who has learned that adults sometimes need more time than you would expect to understand what has already happened. "How many did you call?" Harmon asked. Cole said nothing. Harmon looked back out the window. More headlights were turning into the parking lot. The vibration of many engines had reached the building itself. The bowl of wrapped chocolates on the counter shifted slightly, pieces nudging against each other. "Who are they?" Donna asked. "Iron Roads," Cole said. "They were supposed to be here at 8 for the toy run." He paused. "They're a little early." Harmon was at the window. The 3 cars that had been in the parking lot when Cole arrived were now surrounded. More machines, more headlights, the particular low-rolling sound of 150 engines that had not yet decided to stop. He reached across his desk and picked up the therapist's note. He read it. He read it again. Something in his face broke. Not his authority, not his composure, but the specific expression of a man who has been completely certain and has just found in a single paragraph that he was not. "Carol," he said, "get me the district emergency line. They came down Oak Street in formation, not a crowd, not a rush, a disciplined column of machines that turned into the Madison Heights parking lot in sequence, with the precision of people who have ridden together long enough to move without instruction. 150 motorcycles, the Jefferson City Police Department's 2 officers, who arrived at 8:22, would confirm the number later. They found the situation already resolved and the lot already full. The engines cut in sequence, row by row, the sound dying from one end of the lot to the other the way a wave recedes. What was left in the silence that followed was 150 riders on their bikes in a school parking lot on Christmas Eve, and every single one of them had a toy strapped to their machine. Because Mickey Doyle had relayed Cole's call in 4 words. Madison Heights. Bring everything. The silence settled over the lot, over the school, over the Christmas lights along the entrance that were still on, still blinking in the cold, gray morning. And it was the specific silence of people who have come somewhere on purpose and do not need to announce it. Mickey Doyle came inside. He was 52 years old, road captain of the Iron Roads, Missouri chapter for 9 years, a man of sufficient economy of language that the writers who had known him for a decade could not reliably quote a dozen sentences he had produced in any single conversation. He walked into Madison Heights Elementary and found Cole in the hallway and took in the situation the way he took in all situations, from back to front, facts before opinions. He saw Donna in the warehouse vest. He saw Maisie in the forearm crutches. He saw the red crayon tucked behind her ear. His face, which was not a soft face, changed. He crouched down so that he was eye level with Maisie Aldrich. "You go to school here?" he said. "Yes," Maisie said. "You like it?" She considered this in the way she considered everything, carefully, without rushing to an answer. "Most of the time," she said. He looked at the Eiffel Tower on her backpack. "Paris," he said. "When I grow up," Maisie said. Mickey Doyle nodded once. He looked up at Cole. "Make sure she keeps her school," he said. He went back outside. At 8:47 on the morning of December 24th, the Jefferson City School District's emergency administrator reversed Maisie Lynn Aldrich's suspension. The IEP notation was determined to be a mitigating factor that had not been adequately weighed. The zero-tolerance determination would be reviewed in January. Harmon delivered the news from his doorway with the flatness of a man reclassifying the morning. As a procedural matter, he handed Donna the reversal form. He said it had been an oversight. He stepped back into his office. Cole walked Donna and Maisie to the main hallway. The school's Christmas assembly, the one she had spent 2 weeks rehearsing, was at 11. The staff were here. The building was open. "You've got time," Cole said. Donna looked at him. She was still in her warehouse vest, still holding the reversal form, still holding Maisie's hand. She had not, until this moment, allowed herself to cry. She did not stop once she started. Cole stood in the hallway. Some things need the space they need, and the most useful thing is to stay present for them. When she was done, he handed her his handkerchief, a habit from his father, a thing he always carried, and walked toward the exit. "Thank you," Donna said. "Read page 7 next time," Cole said. To himself, as much as to the building, he pushed open the door to go, and then quietly from behind him, he heard Maisie whisper, "Thank you." He didn't turn around. He walked out into the cold. 150 Iron Roads riders unloaded their toys at Madison Heights Elementary before 9 o'clock. They stacked them in the hallway by the office, one for every child in every classroom, every grade level. They did not wait to be thanked. Most were back on Oak Street by 9:15. Cole sat on his softail in the parking lot until the gymnasium lights came on for the assembly. Then he took out his phone and called Kelsey. She answered on the second ring. He told her about the red crayon tucked behind a 9-year-old's ear and the Eiffel Tower on her backpack, and the note on page 7 that said her words were her own and always had been, and the 150 riders who had showed up on Christmas Eve because that was what they did. The line was quiet for a moment. "I know, Dad," Kelsey said. "I know." He started the softail and pointed it south. The morning was cold and clear, and the Christmas lights along the school entrance were still on, and for the first time in a long time, the season felt like what it was supposed to feel like. If this story reached you, if you believe every child deserves someone standing in that hallway who has actually read the file, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Hit like, subscribe so you never miss the next one, and drop a comment below. Have you ever shown up for someone who didn't know you were coming? Tell me. I read every single one.